All right, looks like we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Terry White, and I'm joined with the great folks from Farm Design, and this is Christine and Aaron.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
So, come on.
Hello.
Christine and Aaron. There you go. Hey. They gave you the big pump and shout out. You know, you're supposed to
there.
Hey, this is Christine, and hey, this is Aaron.
Here, we'll do it this way.
All right,
hey,
there
Farm
you go.
Design in the house.
Farm Design in the house. All right, that's better. There we go. Now we're up. Little caffeine in the morning never hurts anyone. All right, so today we are going to continue with our graphic design series. We're going to be talking about design, package design. But one thing that's pretty cool, I kind of talked to these guys yesterday, and what they're going to do is set the stage for the entire process over the 3 days. So they're going to be up at the same time today, tomorrow, and Thursday, and they're going to walk us through from start to finish their whole process. Well, not the whole process, as much as they can fit in within the time, because I'll be interrupting, you'll be interrupting with questions. So we'll get as much in as we can.
Absolutely.
So I thought we would start off maybe, it looks like you got Behance up. You want to show a little bit of your work first?
Sure.
All right.
Love to.
Let me make sure we're on the right screen. And we're going to switch over to Aaron.
So here's our Behance page. I'm going to give you a little background on, I guess, who Farm Design is. We're a branding agency in Pasadena, California. We're a team of 8. We're all creatives. We've been doing this since 2000. So
wow.
Goodness, I'm aging myself. 17 plus years.
Well, you don't look a day over 16.
Oh, thank you. So we've been doing it a while, you know. And we're constantly evolving what our craft is, and we're just constantly tweaking it. So we're going to show you kind of the evolution of Farm and where we are today. And so we have a Behance page here. We really just started using Behance. Well, I think we have a date here since 2000.
I think 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years. It's an incredible tool for us to sort of create outreach and share information and gain information from the community. It's the social
media network for creatives. That's what's great about it, is that you don't have to worry about seeing family photos and all the other stuff that would be on every other social network. This is all about design and all about creating.
And that's what we love about it. You know, I was coming here, I was thinking, you know, who are inspirations for me design-wise? And actually, I just go to Behance because the community itself has so many amazing creatives, unknowns in every little sort of nook and cranny of the world. And Behance is sort of that sort of resource that allows you to see what, you know, craft everyone's sort of creating and sort of learning from them. So I use Behance on a daily basis. It's like reading the newspaper.
Wow.
It's the first thing I do is I go to Behance
awesome.
and I'm just like, what's there on the discovery page?
And
it just inspires me and gets me.
Now you're inspiring me to check it out more often.
It's a daily ritual.
I mean, there's like so much people on there. It's like, you know, the experts, like everyone in the community and everyone that's learning. And like Aaron said, we're always constantly learning from each other.
I am horrible at keeping my Behance up to date. I need to publish stuff more often.
No, you need to. I heard you were like super great photographer.
Well, thank you, but you know what? I need that connection. Like, I can easily post all the other ones, and I know we got it built into our tools. I just need to use it more.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we're always looking at and seeing what the next sort of trick or sort of the trade is, and so we're always keeping our finger on the pulse, and we're trying to sort of improve our game and learning from others. And so I always say reference the masters, and we're just trying to emulate.
And for the people in the audience, that's something to think about, is that I look up to these guys and what they do, and I'm like blown away. And then I'm like, well, wow, I never thought that they would be looking up to other people and looking at what they're doing. So it just, get out there, put stuff up. You never know who you're inspiring, because you could be inspiring people all over the world and just not know about it.
Yeah, I have a simple mantra. It's just never stop learning.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? Just never stop. I never claim that I know anything. I'm constantly like a sponge, just trying to absorb. I learn so much from my staff, you know, and they're 20 years younger than me, and
they
inspire me.
Don't get, you know, complacent or too happy where you are, because, you know, there's always room to grow from, you know, and learn from everyone else.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think that's sort of like the nucleus of, like, I think there's some magic happening at Farm Design. I think a big part of it is we're all sort of like-minded people who are striving to do something greater than what our capabilities are, and we're all trying to help each other and nurture each other's ability to sort of try to get a little better. And every day, if we do that, it's like we keep improving. So I think our Behance page is sort of like an evolution. You can see, like, like our first post to sort of where we are now, and we're constantly doing little tweaks
And
to
you're
improve
keeping,
it.
you're keeping the older
We're
stuff
scaffolding
on there,
the
right?
information we learn. And so, I'm hoping that our Behance page and our website a year from now is going to look totally different.
Well, that's cool because a lot of times, especially I look at my portfolio and I look at the older work and I'm like, oh, that's got to go.
Right?
That's embarrassing. That's got to get out of here.
It's kind of cool
great.
to look back.
Yeah, to look
'cause
back,
then
right.
it measures your growth
Exactly.
as an artist. So.
Super important. I think I get a lot of students who should I, I don't want to show you my portfolio because, I'm just not there yet. I say just put it out there. You got to start somewhere. Build that foundation.
Your
and then
portfolio's never finished.
Right.
It's a work in progress all the time from start to forever. You're always, improving by putting newer, better things in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about this piece we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I pulled this one up. We just posted this last month, actually. It's called Lava. Interestingly enough, this is a project. We have a client who does Bloody Mary mixes. It's a high-end premium mix because it uses San Marzano tomatoes from the foothills of Mount Vesuvius. So it's really unique.
It's grown on volcanic soil, and that's what's the
grown
unique.
on volcanic soil.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the unique factor about this product.
Yeah. So we did multiple concepts, and we might show some mood boards and how we got to this, but this is actually one of the concepts that didn't get picked. So we really liked it for different reasons, and so we fleshed it out for our Behance page and our website. So we took it the next step, and we sort of fully baked this project.
Now, before you move off that one,
Sure.
So I just want to give a shout out to Project Felix for those in the audience. So you're just joining us. If you go to AdobeLive.com, if you're not already watching it that way, there's a contest tab. So you can learn more about the contest. We're giving away all kinds of cool prizes and cash, I believe, as well. So we're giving away
It's a Visa card.
Visa card. Well, you know what I mean. Money, and in addition to Creative Cloud. But one of the contests is actually revolving around Project Felix, which is currently in beta. It just hit beta 3. And what I'm reminded about looking at this project, this Lava project, is that that's a perfect thing to do in Felix, where you drop in maybe a stock background and you would like to see what those bottles would look like with the label on them against something real, something photographic. That's what Project Felix allows you to do. So you can drop in any background image, whether you shoot it yourself or use stock. You can even bring in 3D models of bottles. You design the label in Photoshop, Illustrator, wherever you want, and then drop it in and wrap it all around and make it look like a photorealistic 3D art. So that's what Project Felix does.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's something we're eager to sort of explore, because a lot of the work that we produce, I'd say majority of it is sort of rendered out. So it's actually because we're not photographers per se.
Yeah, that's
so
what Project Felix is for.
Skill set.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put a photograph on our website if it's inferior, because it's just going to sort of lower our work and perception of our work. So we're pretty good at mocking stuff up. So these are.
That's what Felix is for.
Yeah, so having some sort of something previously rendered out, and we can skin it. That's what we use, and then we sometimes add little bells and whistles and emboss and stuff. But we try to fully bake it so it looks complete and fully finished. But it's all about the little details, and that's part of what we want to share this week. Is like, how do we get to these sort of presentation stages? And so this week, over the next 3 days, we're going to sort of show our process. And I think because we get a lot of students ask, like, how do you do that?
Well, Jahan Ali says it looks amazing. And so you got all kinds of fans in here, all from the UK and other places around the world, but just keep going. They want to see more.
Cool.
Yeah, so what we like to do is, the client came to us because it was a package design. And a lot of times our clients come to us for a singular item or a touch point. So they may not necessarily understand the strength of what a brand or a brand voice, a brand essence can do for their company.
Sure.
And so we understand this, so we try to demonstrate that for them. So they came to us to redesign their bottle.
Okay.
And we did that, but in that process, we wanted to help them expand their brand and create a brand voice that can connect with their consumer. There's so many unique sort of brand attributes to this product. The fact that the product is made from tomatoes from the foothills of Mount Vesuvius, and he wasn't demonstrating that very well. And so we wanted to communicate sort of message points that can connect with consumers. And also understanding the consumer side,
Right.
and trying to speak to them and trying to craft something that connects with them.
Well, and Blue-Eyed Black Backbeat? Yes, Blue-Eyed Backbeat is asking, do you guys use more Illustrator or more Photoshop? Or
It's a combination of both. I think we explore a lot on Illustrator to do like quicker moves.
Okay.
And then we'll take that Illustrator file and then bring it in to Photoshop to do like
So
more
you're using
mock-ups.
them
So
both
it's like a
equally.
little both,
Yeah.
yeah, equally.
Okay.
Yeah, so even though they came to us for one touch point, which is the packaging, we like to flesh out the brand, like I say, fully bake it. Because early in my career, a client would come to me and was like, design a logo, and I would craft something and I would fall in love with it. And then I would hand it off to the client feeling like I accomplished the task. And then the client might come back to me and say, can you build a website? And I'll put that logo on the website, and it just doesn't work. It's like I use too many colors, there's gradients, maybe it's too vertical, and just it doesn't fit the format or the... and so I started to realize that I needed to understand how to best utilize the artifacts and provide a service to my client that allows them to scale and grow. So in order for me to sort of get a sense of if that mark can work for various touch points, that I had to bake it out. So sometimes we do little Frankensteins of what a website might look like and put the logo in it.
Got it.
And we might, if it's, or in this case here.
Now, at first glance, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this is, besides wow, is it's just so clean and just like it just pops off the page. It's just so beautifully designed.
Thank you.
I think what we try to do when laying out portfolio is, setting up that brand guideline and then using it throughout the portfolio to kind of tell that story. And in this way, it kind of shows, it shows how scalable the brand can be without just using the logo on everything.
Yeah,
so it's like,
makes
we're
sense.
creating more brand artifacts, such as these guys right here that you see on the right.
Right.
So it's not just the logo, it's like everything else. I think the logo is one part of the brand, but it's everything else that makes it.
Now, as a photographer, of course, one of the things that jumped out at me is this picture above with the, I guess they're holding some tomatoes.
Oh, yeah, right here.
That one.
Yeah.
So, tell me about that. Is that we went out and shot it? We found stock. How did that work?
It's a great question.
We found stock.
Okay.
We use
All right.
stock C
That's fine.
sometimes. Sometimes we're not able to shoot certain things, but we utilize the tools online that are available. And we like to infuse a lot of
and
photography.
it's great because Stock is a part of our premium collection in Adobe Stock. So, photographers, see what I was telling you about? It's about Stock.
Yeah.
They didn't have time to go and shoot it or pay someone to do it, so they went and found a perfect image on Stock. You're putting your images up. Never mind. Go on.
So images are super important. We have renders, but we wanted to really tell that, the cultivation story of these precious tomatoes and what makes this product
great
special.
choice of image. I love the fact that
it's
the
super
hands are
important.
dirty and they're just
Because there's some stock photo. We're not photographers, so for me to say, Christine, go out and shoot this is like we're probably going to get something that's not to the level that we want.
Right.
So we either hire someone who does it better than us, or look for resources. And there's so many great sort of resources out there in terms of stock photography. And then it becomes a matter of curating what is right and what is on brand. The photo styling. So sometimes we'll do color correcting to sort of make sure that it's it fits with the brand sort of look and aesthetic. But so don't just pick one and just drop it in there and you're good. It's like you need to curate it and sort of add some love to it to make sure it sort of syncs up with everything and part of the brand.
got it.
I think another point is when we do these systems, as we call them, we like to demonstrate how a brand can be more than just a logo, because oftentimes, especially with young designers sort of just learning the craft, is they'll design a mark and then they'll just put it on everything and think that's like a system. So we call that a logo slap. You design a cool logo and you just put it on everything.
Jethro says, "I love you, farm."
I think we know a Jethro. Huh. No, we don't think much of them, but thank you, Jethro, whoever you are.
I take it that's somebody, you know.
Just giving us a shout out.
Yep.
Yeah, so we try to avoid the logo slap, which
Yeah.
is taking a thing and just slapping it on everything and then calling that a system. We like to sort of look at other facets to the brand and sort of demonstrate how you can take a brand look and give it multiple sort of facets to it. It's like personalities. It's like we have different sort of personalities. We're a brand. You're a brand. You don't dress the same every day.
I do.
Oh, you do? Not a great case study, but
I'm messing with you.
but like a lot of brands, you know, there's subtle tweaks to it and subtle sort of facets that people can connect with. And so a strong brand should have a robust sort of a toolbox of artifacts that you can draw from and use differently. And it's colors and textures and logos. And so we try to do that when we do these systems here on Behance. Do you want to pick one, Christine, on what you might want to share?
Yeah. Maybe Fat Dragon, since
Sure.
then we can just jump into.
Yeah, and then you can.
Yeah, we do a lot of
creation.
restaurant work, which we love. Being in LA, it's just there's just so many options.
Right.
Yeah, we're so spoiled with. It's a foodie mecca.
You are.
Yeah.
It's-
So we've been fortunate enough to get a lot of restaurant work, and this is one that we just did recently. Shout out to Nicole at our studio. She worked on this. She's a graphic designer who interned with us for about a year, and then she's been with us almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah, so right out of school, she's producing this sort of level of work.
Wow.
So Fat Dragon, the concept behind this, so it's an Asian Chinese fusion restaurant in Silver Lake.
Okay.
I think originally the client came to us with a name. I think it was like
Lotus Dragon or
like
Flower Dragon or something.
Flower Dragon. And we were like, I don't think, thinking about your demographic in Silver Lake, it's like, becoming more gentrified and like so much restaurants are popping up, super cool, younger demographic. It's like, we threw out, why not Fat Dragon?
Yeah. Because
And then
Silver
there-
Lake, understanding who your audience is really important with branding.
Yeah.
And so this potential client had very traditional sort of Asian food, and they're putting it in this area that is like super hipster. It's like
Okay.
coffee shops, and everyone has, they have
I can even tell just the looking at the design and color choices of the furniture and just all the little details there.
Yeah, so we actually, if you go back to the interior, we also helped out with that,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, colors. I think originally it was very stark white, and we felt like, and knowing their personalities are like warmer personalities, super friendly and welcoming, and these colors are we were inspired by this. I think this was another Adobe or Stock
Image,
piece
yeah.
that we got.
Cool.
It's like an urban scene in Hong Kong, and we were really inspired by those colors. So we kind
Beautiful.
of fleshed out this system, creating menus, chopsticks, little stamps, doing cup sleeves.
And you'll notice how the brand stays intact. It has a DNA, but it's not always the same look, but it feels constant. So we have here on the left, the chopsticks, we have a primary logo. And then here on the right, we have a secondary mark that we utilize on sort of with the dragon head, we utilize on different touch points as well.
And that's important that, I guess I never even thought about it until I heard you articulate it, is that oftentimes when I think of someone, or someone asks me, or someone talks about designing a logo, I think of the logo. I don't think of it in, what if it has to be reshaped or repositioned on something
Right.
that size won't fit?
Right.
And wow, you just blew my mind with that.
Yeah, we're really big into having a robust sort of toolbox of artifacts. So we normally have that primary logo, it needs to function well, or we have different formats where it can work in a portrait
Yeah,
or landscape
right.
environment. And then we have like supporting artifacts, that little nuggets that you can use throughout the sort of brand pieces and the touch pieces. And
Because
so
in most cases, it's don't touch the brand, don't
Yeah.
don't change the logo's shape or any, or
it's
orientation. I should
evolved a
say,
lot.
but it has.
like Nike, I remember Nike, and this was back when I first started studying, and everyone says the logo's sacred, you don't do
Right,
anything.
yeah.
You have one mark and it can be utilized one way.
One way,
And then Nike, they went out and they had they had a Nike logo where it was a script font for more of the female line. Everyone was like, whoa, what are they doing? That's not Nike anymore. Yeah. And then they took Nike out and just used the swoosh. Yeah. I'm dating myself. This is, again, back in the 90s.
I'm right there
right?
with you.
And then that started to sort of allow people to sort of create license for that. It's okay
to break
for a
out
brand,
of the box,
right.
to just say that, hey, you know what? It doesn't fit this tall, skinny thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Make it work.
I think one of the cool things that we actually worked on this was the neon sign outside the restaurant. So yes, we have this logo, but we kind of figured, like, why not just use the dragon and kind of make it like not speakeasy, but something that catches an audience's eye just driving down the street.
Right.
And then they're going to be like, oh, what is that? Like, I don't see a name, but I'm
Yeah,
kind of curious.
that's cool.
It piques your interest, right?
No, like
Yeah.
you said, with the swoosh. They don't have to say Nike anymore. You know what that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because we were helping them.
Helen says, I want that in my mouth.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the neon dragon.
Yeah,
logo
so these are some.
must be flexible to be etched onto a needle, or I guess that's needle, but yeah, so inspiring. All right. I agree, Marcy. They are inspiring. I'm getting inspired here.
So we do a lot of consumer good package, CPG, consumer packaged goods, and restaurants, and we build a lot of momentum in those categories. But we don't pigeonhole ourselves into one category. We like to call ourselves it's a branding agency, so we can work across any sort of category, where that's lifestyle, beauty, food. We just so happen to love food, so bring it on. But I think it says something about, I think, a lot of people who are sort of starting out and they're trying to figure out what their spaces or their path is I say, just if there's something that you want to pursue, that you love, then put that out there, because that's going to get the type of clients and the type of individuals and projects that you want to sort of achieve. So don't be too random.
Right.
Stay focused. And if you produce something good, then people are going to come to you for that.
And I think a good example is, when we weren't so big yet, it was just me, my friend. There's only 2 designers in the studio at the time. And we weren't so busy. And Aaron, he was like, let's work on a project, like a hypothetical project. And I worked on, I don't think it's on here, but if you search it, it should be. Let's work on a hypothetical project. And I was like, oh, let's do maybe a restaurant. So we created a whole hypothetical and we put it out there, and then that's when the phone started ringing.
Right.
And then that's when we got
Did
more
you guys
restaurant
hear
plans.
that? Is they took the time when they had the time to create something hypothetical. In other words, non-paying, not for a specific client, but that ended up bringing them work.
Absolutely. That was our first sort of restaurant project. We had an opportunity to do a pizza shop, and we did a pitch on it, and we didn't get the project.
Yeah.
And we thought that was our opportunity to sort of get into the food industry or the restaurant industry. We didn't get the project. And so instead, like Christine said, it's like, we came up with this hypothetical. She has it on her screen.
Oh, okay. Switch over. No problem.
Yeah, so, we just mocked this up. We cut things out. We printed it out. We spray mounted it. We took our own photographs. And then we posted this. And then because of technology in blogs and portfolio sites, this stuff goes out there. And was this picked up on the die line?
Yeah, this is on the die line. We created our own bottles. I had a friend etch out like a pattern and a logo. We created a label.
That looks so classic and clean. I love it.
It's kind of like whiskey bar.
Yeah.
Inspired by Frank Sinatra. So you got your appetizers, nice and easy.
So this was
cigar bar.
Circa 2012, maybe?
Yeah.
I think you were still in school.
Yeah, I was still in school.
She was interning.
Wow.
And then Aaron really helped me.
And again, I just love the way it's not just the logo. You can actually see it on everything it would be on and things it wouldn't be on.
Yeah.
I love that classic old, rusted door of the delivery truck that it was on. That's
so
awesome.
it kind of puts you in an era.
Right.
But yeah. So this is kind of something.
All right. Well, we could show your work all day, but let's get into some stuff. Let's see what you're gonna do.
So you kind of get an idea of a little bit about our philosophies of showing brand systems and not just singular sort of touch points, like just a package or just a logo.
Yeah.
We like to flesh it out.
Yeah, and you have proven that.
Right. So I think what we
awesome.
want to sort of share our process and let you inside sort of farm design in our heads and how we develop these things. And so we're going to talk about the process. So let's see. We pulled some stuff together. So I think we're going to share some case studies. So we're going to sort of walk you through a client that we're currently working on that's not in our portfolio yet.
Okay.
And they gave us clearance to sort of share this, so
Cool.
a shout out to them. And we're going to share this so no one's seen this before, and we're going to take you from start to finish and show you our process. And then after that, we're going to share our hypothetical project that we're going to work on over the next couple days, and we're going to sort of follow that same process so you can really sort of see every step that we take to get from an idea to the full sort of brand system like you see on our Behance page.
Okay.
Okay, so this project is called Bivouac. A client called us from San Diego. They're starting microbreweries craft breweries are really popular right now, especially in Southern California, and all these big sort of breweries are buying them up. Mm-hmm. And so they saw an opportunity, a market gap, to create this this experience that's similar to microbrewery, but using cider. So it's like this emerging trend in the beverage space. And so let me find it here. You give a little background. I'm gonna dig this up.
For Bivouac?
Yeah.
So Bivouac is born in San Diego, and they're doing ciders. And what you're gonna see here is a little bit of like the research process that we do, and then kind of like an exploration stage, and then you'll see like a full polished presentation that we showed them.
So they wanted us to create a brand, which would go on consumer packaging, like beer cans, for example. Mm-hmm. But they're also going to have a retail space, a restaurant space in San Diego, a place called North Park. It's like this really up-and-coming sort of gentrified area with all these cool shops popping up. And so they came to us because they wanted to build out this big brand system that can work across all these touch points, consumers and retail. So before we do anything, we like to do research, and it's very collaborative with our clients. We want to understand who the client is, who the brand is, and then we also want to understand who the consumer is as well. And a lot of this research, some people's like, how do you do your research? A lot of people Google it and they look for information online. Mm-hmm. I really feel like all the answers are with the client. Like they are truly the DNA.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of asking the right questions and getting it out of them to sort of understand what their vision is, because oftentimes brands are.
Now, do you run into situations where, like, because if you came to me and asked me, I don't know, I'll like it when I see it.
We get that a lot.
I'm sure.
I think it's like therapy.
Yeah.
A good therapist is going to sit there and they're not going to tell you what's wrong with you or what you should do. They ask questions for you to figure it out. To figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what we do with our clients.
Okay.
And so if they don't know, then we're going to continue asking questions. So
and I think it also
I don't know. Stop
it
beating
forces
me up.
them to really think about it, because I think that's where the honest answer is. It's with them.
Yeah.
Because,
well, do they ever say, like, I don't know, but I kind of want it to look like so and so?
Yeah. And then we try to dissect, like, why were they inspired, or what is it about what their reference is that they liked? And then we try to sort of reverse engineer it and sort of like, is it because of the color? Is it because of the illustration style? Or
I like that font.
Right. It's like,
Yep.
So you have to try to understand why they like it, and sometimes they have a hard time articulating it. And so you got to sort of like help and guide them through that so we can understand it. There's this saying, like, you need to ask a question 3 times to get to the truth. So if I don't understand it, I'm not hearing it from the client, I just keep asking questions.
Okay.
Just keep asking. Persistence. Absolutely. So when we do these sort of research decks, it allows us to create a sort of a roadmap, a sort of a strategy. Think of it kind of like a lens to look through. I can come up with a bunch of different metaphors, but it's something that lets our creative staff sort of guide them when they sort of start ideating ideas or discovering creativity, but it also brings the client in and allows them to sync up and make sure that we're all on the same page. So we ask, when we do these, we like to ask 4 questions.
Okay.
I think Christine can.
Yeah. So the 4 questions are, the first one is, who are you? Then it goes to who should know. Third question is, how will they find out? And
like
the
that.
4th question is, why should they care?
I like that.
So who are you is a portion of the research deck that will tell us what their mission, the client's mission is, their vision. We kind of dabble in a little bit of the competitive analysis.
Because most companies have figured that part out. Like, they know what they want to do, and they know how. Usually they're experts at how to do it.
Yep.
They just don't necessarily have all 4 pieces put together.
So, you have this, now we're just dissecting it in chunks and really getting to know those 4 separate areas.
Yeah.
So again, the who are you? Yeah, we dabble in a little bit of the competitive analysis of their product just to see where they are in the landscape, in the market. Then we also, for the who should know, that's pretty much the target demographic. We also do introduce brand archetypes.
It's really important because I think with branding, a lot of designers will look at the brand side, the client side, and they want to know, like, what is your category, what is your product, and they focus really heavily on the brand side. I think a good brand is what the consumer says it is. It's not what the brand says it is.
Correct.
So how do you have to then understand who the consumer is. So we take a kind of a consumer-centric point of view. We really want to know who's going to buy into that service or that product and try to empathize with them and understand what their habits are. So when we're crafting something, it's truly speaking to them as opposed to just projecting what the brand thinks it is. Because if it's not hitting the consumer correctly, and the consumer's not going to, right?
Yeah.
And when we do an evaluation on consumers and brand archetypes, then you kind of tap into that emotional side of branding. And that's what branding is all about. Because, like, again, you know, we can be attracted to the way something looks, but at the end, you fall in love with the personality.
Yep.
And that's what studying consumers and archetype does. It allows you to tap into, you know, the deeper levels. And then, was there anything you need to add to that?
Yeah, no, so it's like, who are you? Who needs to know? How do they find you? And today, typically, it's internet,
Digital.
right?
Yeah.
It's technology.
Digital.
But there's other ways that they can find you.
They
So we want to know
drive by,
how...
I'm in a great location.
Right.
Near
is it
the
local,
whatever,
regional,
right,
global, how are they? And so that way we can craft sort of message points and understand the platforms to sort of deliver these. And the last thing, which I think is really important, is why should they care?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because
Yeah,
if there's like, you're trying to scratch something but there isn't an itch, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? So we want to understand, like, is this product, is there an audience that is interested? Or what makes you unique, and that's why people would care. So we want to sort of dive deep and try to understand all these little nuances, and that's what these research decks do.
Ultimately, the why should you care part is, like, people want to know, like, why am I going to invest in your brand?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a really important factor of it.
If I'm not, what's hard is if I'm not a potential client, meaning I'm not a potential person who's going to buy this, then it's even harder for me to understand who would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, part of these decks is trying to help us sort of relate to the potential demographic and sort of walk in their shoes. And so this really does it. This is a 47-page deck. Obviously, we're not going to all the minutia of it, but it starts to answer a lot of those things. We don't have a boilerplate sort of research deck. We just want to answer those 4 questions. I don't care how we do it. We always comes back to, like, are we answering those 4 questions correctly? And that will help inform us and inform the client in that we're making the best decisions possible in sort of developing a brand system. So this is Bivouac. Bivouac is a French word. It means a makeshift shelter. Think of it like a tent, or in the military they sort of create little sort of shelters. So Bivouac is the name. Cider is it's an alcoholic sort of beverage with a apple base, and so we want to, we sometimes will break things down. Here's a particular page that talks about, we looked at other competitors on the shelf and saw how they're telling the story. And so it's important to understand the landscape, look at the competition. And then we try to see if there's opportunity gaps to like do something different and sort of disrupt what's happening there. And that's what sort of helps you stand out.
Have you ever had to create something for a startup or a new company where they were first? There is no competition.
We have.
And how
how
was that different?
It's a bit frightening, especially for them. And it's like, how do you sort of help shepherd their efforts in sort of being able to connect? I think it takes a lot of courage to sort of be the first to market.
Right.
But there's also a big reward if you do it and you do it well.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we look at sort of peripheral sort of brands or categories that we can learn from. That's like maybe a close cousin to that category. And we just try to inform ourselves the best possible way. We don't have like distinct answers. We're not a marketing research group, so it's not like we have like pie charts and graphs and like this is where you need to go. We use a lot of sort of intuition in what we do. But in order to sort of have that information to be intuitive and rational, we need to gather as much information as possible. And then we try to do our best to make the right decisions.
Cool. Okay.
So I'm going to sort of skim through this. So, this kind of gives you a sense of us sort of trying to understand the space and opportunities when we're developing this brand. So we did a bunch here, understanding who the consumer is. Sometimes we do find sort of more statistical, sort of rational information, and I think it's important. So we share those things. But a lot of it is sort of like creating some sort of fuzzy notion of what it can be. We paint pictures in terms of like who the archetypes might be, so you can kind of make them relatable.
Now, go back one slide.
Sure.
So like I look at a trend like that, and I don't drink beer, so I don't know. But and that stat doesn't surprise me. But have you ever run into a situation where, obviously, if that's the stat, then you work the brand towards that stat? But have you had it the other way around, where they're saying, well, we're trying to get 30% women to do it versus 20, and you have to now market it towards that demographic?
Yeah, so I think you're challenged with that. You're trying to figure out, like, why is it only 20%? And how can we pull more of that audience over? So you want to sort of dissect and understand and empathize who what that target audience is. So if it's a female target audience and you're trying to pull them into this product, you have to understand what their habits are and what sort of influences them, and sort of you need to sort of project more of that sort of message that connects with that consumer.
Okay.
Than the male consumer.
Okay.
So you have to shift the language, you have to shift the dialogue, and oftentimes the aesthetic to appeal to that. So you have to make adjustments. You can't project and put out the same messaging because you're going to get the same results.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
We're going to go through a lot of this stuff. And our client, they were pretty savvy. They had notions of, like you said, like we like certain things, and so it was helpful for us to sort of narrow the focus a lot in terms of like what might that aesthetic be like. And so they shared some stuff and we put it in this deck. Sometimes our clients will create like Pinterest boards and share with us, so we can go to the Pinterest board and they drop a bunch of stuff on there, and it really sort of, again, it sort of refines that lens that we look through. So here's some like logo styles that influence them. Sometimes we'll sort of put sort of logo style sheets together and share with our client to say, is this sort of what you're looking for? And it just helps narrow the focus and for us to preserve time and get to that place much quicker. Looking at other competitors. So this is the research deck.
Alex's deal is loving the info. He says this info is good.
Thank you, Alex.
And the Kyle Civic, you're welcome.
So from this,
thank you.
The client, we share this with the client. We make tweaks to it, make sure we're all on the same page, so we're all informed and we have the same sort of focus as we move forward.
Tanya's also saying she loves the episode, so much great info.
Awesome. So I'm going to let Christine talk about the next stage. After we sort of have the nice foundation of information and research, then we start to go into like the next step in the process. This is sort of the second step, which is starting to create a fuzzy notion of what it is. Sort of, we call it mood boards or brandscapes. So do we want to do this one?
Yeah. So, going to or after reviewing the research deck, we kind of have a more narrowed focus. But within that narrowed focus, we still have, wiggle room to explore different styles or aesthetics. So this is kind of how we do mood boards. It's pretty different.
Now, for those who are just fresh, just coming out, don't know what a mood board is, what's a mood board?
So a mood board is a gathering of certain assets or found assets that are already out there, and we take it together, and those elements complement each other, and they kind of give an essence of what the brand could be.
Is this something you're doing digitally, or are you putting it up on a wall?
We usually do them digitally, but usually sometimes we'll print them out, put them on the wall, have group discussions about it, and then from then on we kind of just have a more narrowed focus on where to explore.
And I think one of the greatest consumer, or I should say social media mood boards is Pinterest.
Yep.
That's where people go to put like things together. They create a board, they start collecting things on that board from other people, and then that becomes their digital mood board. It's just using Pinterest or something like it.
Yeah, so we do use Pinterest, and this is how we kind of start off. So everything that you see on the screen, the textures, the graphics, and images are found, but we sort of meld them together to find visual opportunities. Because when things overlap, that's when you get the visual opportunities. We also use a lot of words. Words are super important, and I think a lot of things always start with words, especially concepts. If you look to the bottom left, we have words that kind of explain what the mood board is or what we are inspired by. So we were inspired by dynamic, energetic, artistic, raw, and natural. And this is kind of the form that you'll see. We'll show a couple more.
Because most mood boards are very compartmentalized. So you have like maybe a bucket full of like things like logos, and then you might have a bucket full of textures, or you have a mood board that is like muses or certain styles. And they're very sort of segmented and compartmentalized. And that's what we learned growing up, is like we do mood boards and we have them compartmentalized so we can see the landscape. But what we've done is we've evolved that because we're trying to take it to the next level. And so we do these things where we take those artifacts from the various mood boards and we put it into a little sort of brandscape where we're actually designing, taking a lot of those artifacts and designing something in little, what we call sprints. So these we take, it might be done in 10 to 15 minutes. We don't like to spend a lot of time on these. And then when we do these mood brandscapes, is we're trying to figure out hierarchy and contrast and colors, and we're using these to sort of help influence what the next step is when we start designing the actual packaging.
So yeah, if you go to the next one, you'll kind of see another one. This one was, the words that we were inspired by were honest, genuine, heritage, rudimentary, and alternative. And again, found objects. Sometimes we do add a little of our own, but as you can see, these are things that I wouldn't be able to kind of execute without having a notion of it. So then we go to the next one. This one's a little more modern. Finding visual opportunities again like this. What is the concept? Do we have this apple, and then there's this typographic map that shows like the layers, maybe, and can explain the flavor profile. So then you kind of start thinking of like, what these elements, like how can I use them onto the packaging? Is there visual system that I can use?
Because Terry, I think when I first started doing these, when we would have mood boards and we start designing, we jump right to design, and we spend so much time like trying to get the design perfect. We can spend a day or 2 days coming up with an idea, and then as I matured with our craft, we realized we need to just get the right idea, and then we're going to get the idea right later.
Okay.
So we don't need to spend 8 hours, 16 hours to sort of get that concept. We can do it in little sprints and sort of start to look at it from 10,000 feet in the air. Look at the big picture, and then we focus on the granular details later. So these little sprints and these little mood boards, we intentionally keep it restricted to like 10 to 15 minutes, and we look for found objects as opposed to designing a logo or designing, if we want a logo, we'll get influenced by other designers who do marks that we think and we curate that think might work for this brand. So we drop those on there to just get a sense of it looks and feels right, and then we'll go out and we'll craft our own. So we're not taking their mark and using it and slapping it on our design. We're just trying to get a sense of, does it feel right, and we'll craft something along that same sort of tone or look or feel.
Now, a couple questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something you said earlier was that, you said people working for you now are like half your age or younger than you, and you're learning from them.
Yeah.
And if I understood you, Christine, you were in school when you started working there?
Yes, I was in school.
So it sounds like you got a tremendous opportunity right out of school.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't. I'm super grateful for that. I don't think I'd start my.
This
career
question
another
goes
way.
to both of you, and you can answer it individually. What would you tell the young graphic design students out there, like if you could give them one or two pieces of advice, and you just coming out of school and you hiring someone in school, what would it be? And whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead.
I think mine would be, take, all the opportunities that are handed, to you, or, get your foot in the door. No matter, I started with Aaron in his garage that he converted into a studio. We were super small, but that was okay with me because I knew that Aaron was such a great mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And, even if we were in a small studio, I don't think it matters where you are. It's what, if you're really passionate about it, you put in what you can as much as possible, and you'll come out with something like...
Yeah, she saw an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally a garage, and there was no air conditioning in it. And during the summer in Pasadena, it can get over 100 degrees.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, and then you have like the computers in the garage, and the computers are hot. It's like, it was like a sauna in there. And so I was like, oh my gosh, no one's going to want to work for me in my garage. But then, I found Christine and some other designers who are really passionate and wanted to learn. And that told me a lot about their character. And so I think based on that is I saw that they were trying to pursue something and that they were eager. Okay. I look for potential in individuals. Like, you don't need to be that rock star.
So
you don't
in
need
other
to
words, students, when you're coming out of school, the best opportunity may not be in some cushy design firm that's well established that hires you and pays you six figures right out of the gate, and you're away you go. If you get that, great. But that may not happen, and it's okay because you get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, with Aaron, it's like we were both learning because, he was growing the business and I was learning that side too, which was really cool.
And I think, just from seeing the work that you've done, I think you're better off the way you started.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I would trade it in for anything. Like, I wouldn't. I know. I'm happy I started with a small design.
Awesome. Okay, so continue, sir.
I think looking at it from the employer side is, I think, always find opportunities. And I think a lot of students, when you're looking for internships, do it while you're in school. Don't wait until after you graduate. I think when you do it while you're in school, you can afford to fail, you can afford to make mistakes, and you're learning from others. So when you do graduate, you already sort of have that runway where it leads up where you have experience. And oftentimes, employers want to hire that intern because they've invested so much time and energy into them. Mm-hmm. So when you hire them, they already can sort of hit the ground running.
Right, because they're already...
Right, so there's opportunities. So if you get an internship, I say embrace it and contribute as much as possible. It's about what you can do for the company, not what the company can do for you.
Exactly. Did you hear that? Can you say that again?
I don't know if I can.
It's like about what you can do.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
It's about what you can do for the company, not always what the company can do for you.
Right.
So, when you're in your interviews, kind of say, like, how are you going to be an asset to their team? I think is what you want to...
Provide value.
Yeah.
Come in, provide value. And if you can do that, then you're going to stay on longer. And as long as you continue to grow and provide value, I'm interested. I have... And having the right attitude too. It's the designers who, when you give them a task, it'd be the worst task ever, that smile and embrace it. That also is that attitude goes a long way.
Yeah.
I have a designer at Farm who I love. She wasn't the most talented when I brought her in.
But she had the right attitude.
She had an amazing attitude, and she just always brightened up my day. And now she's a rock star. She comes in and you ask her to do something. She can craft something. But
having managed even here at Adobe, I always appreciated the employees that came to work every day and were excited and were enthusiastic and basically weren't a problem. Those are the ones that, usually succeed. Those are the ones that are usually, the first to get whatever it is to be given out.
You say problem. I always say clients hire Farm Design because we want to make their problems go away.
Yeah.
I'm going to hire interns because I want them to make my problems go away.
Absolutely.
So don't make problems for us, because I'm probably not going to hire you. So think of it that way. I can go on and on about
it. Okay. Continue to work.
So maybe if you guys have other questions, like you want to know, what an employer might be looking for.
So someone, I just saw it go by there, and I can scroll back up.
Yeah, if you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Someone said, how do you find your clients? I'm trying to go back to that question.
That's interesting. I don't know.
Looks like Asha asked, how do you find your clients?
Some of it's through word of mouth. So we'll work with one client, and then that client will refer us to another one.
Okay. Word of mouth?
We don't have a sales team at Farm. I've never had a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I loathe having to pick up a phone and call someone and say, hey, can you give us work? I did that for the first 3 months when I started Farm Design in 2000, and I've never done it since. And the reason why I was able to grow the business and be sustainable is something really simple. And we actually created some stickers, and it's right here in the corner, and it says, do good work. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but
someone commented on it. They said it was great decal.
But it's like that simple philosophy is like if your output is strong, people will take notice. So we always try to do our best work, and we try to do even better.
Right.
And then if you come in with that attitude, you're going to constantly improve. And I think that's how we get our work. And thank goodness for technology and sites like Behance that get our brand out there. Yeah. And so embracing that, understanding what tools are available to you, and that's what we've done. So in 17 years, we've never had a salesperson. We only get clients because they call us.
Yeah. So Deanna's asking, any ideas for thinking outside of the box design-wise?
Usually when we look for inspiration, let's say you're designing a beverage package, I think what we do at Farm is try not to look at other beverage packages because it's already done.
Because that's the first thing I would think. Oh, let me go look at some other ones, get some ideas.
So it goes back to finding those artifacts that aren't already done. So they're more like pieces, like a logo or like a texture.
Exactly. So like these mood boards or brandscapes that we have on the screen right now is we sort of do these rough sort of little Frankensteins. We take all those sort of artifacts that we pulled in when we're doing mood boards, and we start slapping them on the board here, and we start to find opportunities in certain areas. I don't know if you can see my little cursor on the screen, but we start to see like, ooh, that texture looks really cool with that font, or I like the balance of that shape relative to that granular shape. And so we throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And it's part of that, these sort of these little mood boards that we create, or brandscapes, we try to find opportunities there that sort of inspire us to go to the next stage, which we'll share with you.
All right, here's a couple interesting ones. Not that the rest aren't interesting, but these caught my eye. Marion's asking, does the first impression look really matter from your portfolio, or do you make your judge after seeing the portfolio?
That's a great question. I've seen probably literally thousands of portfolios in my day, just because I've been around way too long. But I think I look for potential in individuals.
Okay.
Also, people that would sort of fit the culture of the working environment that we live in. So because we're spending 40 hours together,
Yeah.
each week, and so it's like you want to work with people that are inspiring or easy to get along with. So there's a lot more than just what does your portfolio look like. It's really about who you are as a person is a big aspect of it. I think
And that makes a lot of sense, because you can have the best designer, teacher, photographer, whatever in the world, but if they're a pain in the neck to work
you don't
with,
have the right attitude.
then you just
Doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay.
Doesn't work.
So second one, and this is interesting. I guess I would have never thought of this, and my answer would be yes. But do you think a branding agency can succeed in a small town?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just say that's what I said.
Like
say yes.
we worked out of our garage.
Yeah.
I mean, in a town called Arcadia. I suppose no one knows where that is, and that proves the point. It's like we started to build traction because of technology allowed us to get our sort of name and our craft out there, and then we transitioned into an office space, and in sky's the limit. You just got to take baby steps and keep scaffolding your efforts.
Right, and here's an interesting one too. What do you think about the self-taught graphic artist? That'd be me, and I'm horrible.
I love it. It's art.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's super inspiring, because they're taking the initiative to train themselves. Like
Well,
they're not.
let me ask it. Okay, so they answered your question. Now let me ask it a slightly different
sure.
way. When I was joking about being the client and saying I'll like it when I see it.
Right.
That's sometimes the way I approach graphic design when I'm doing my own projects. Like, I don't know what I want yet, but I'll know it when I get there. Versus, since I didn't have formal training in graphic design. So do you think it's important to have that formal background in graphic design versus someone who maybe is, I'm not saying me, but someone who's really good at graphic design because they just have a knack for it?
I think to answer that, I think there are fundamentals you need to know.
Okay.
You need to have a foundation and understand fundamentals. It's like I go back to what I learned, and I preach it every day when I'm creative directing at the office. What I'm saying is hierarchy, contrast, balance, grid. These are things they teach you as a freshman in college. And you can learn these things on YouTube. You can learn these things from a book. So do you need formal training? No, but you do need to know the foundation.
You do need the foundation. Okay. Fair enough.
Because I can tell when you don't know the foundations. And
oh God,
once
don't
you
look at my work.
right, when you do when you have the foundation and you understand sound principles and best practices, then you can break them.
Yeah.
You know how to break them, and that's when the magic happens, is when you're doing something that pivots and deviates. But you can't do that unless you know where it came from.
And I guess that makes sense, because I didn't have formal photography training, but I learned the foundation as I went along.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes sense.
And for like students are right out of school, when you're talking about the portfolio, resumes, like honestly, I get a resume. I don't look at the resume in terms of like where you went to school or how much experience you have. I look at your resume like, did they lay out the type well? That's what I look at.
Yeah.
So if the resume looks good and they have good typography and kerning and leading, then it piques my interest and I want to look at their portfolio. If that resume, like the type is horsey and there's typos, like I'm not even going to look at your portfolio. I'm not even going to look at the portfolio. I'm not going to waste my time.
Wow. So that back to that first impression.
Yes.
Yeah. So before he can even get to the portfolio, if the resume is not rocking.
The resume, right?
Yeah.
So I get a bunch of emails, and the first thing that normally pops up is a PDF of the resume, and I'll look at that. And I'm not looking at if you went to a certain school. I'm looking at, do you have the sound design principles? I don't care if it said experience School of Hard Knocks or my mom taught me. I don't care. If you're good, you're good. But I can tell from your resume if you at least have some foundation in type, because if you're not good at type or at least show potential, I'm probably not even going to look at your website because I got better things to do.
Ouch. All right. So keep that in mind as you go look at your resume.
Yeah, so it's details.
Yeah, it's details.
It's all about details. Everything that you put out there is an impression on who
because
you
then
are.
those details again translate to packaging, editorial design.
And see, and again, I go back to when I'm asked to look at photography portfolios, I would always tell people that your weakest image is what people will remember. That's what's holding back. That's what's holding back your portfolio.
Yeah.
So it's not about the quantity of images, it's about putting your best work in that portfolio. You know, if I go through your portfolio, oh my God, amazing. Oh, it's okay. Oh my God, great. It's okay. You know, take the it's okays out.
Yeah.
Just it should be amazing across the board. And if you only have 3 amazing shots, then that's what it is.
I think if you have 3 really sound like portfolio pieces that will wow, you know, whoever you're interviewing for, then that's
and
better.
So be it.
Yeah.
That's better than 10 where 3 were amazing and the other 7 were
like,
just it's okay.
Yeah. So keep asking questions. We'll keep answering them.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back around to like the process. So we laid out the research.
Okay.
We start to do mood boards, but then we evolved mood board into this process where we create these little brandscapes and we do little sprints, 10, 15 minutes. Everything that you've seen here thus far, these are all little sprints, 15 minutes. And if you're doing more than 15 minutes, I normally come to the computer and I like slam on the desk, like move on.
Move on.
Yeah, because I know that if you spend another 30 minutes on this, it's probably gonna look pretty much the same. So we make quick decisions, and it actually works a lot better than if you invest too much time and
because that's not the final piece. So
right.
stop wasting
We're
time on
high
it.
level.
Yeah,
We're thinking
got it.
10,000 feet in the air, and then we're going to come down and get more granular. So based on this, then we go into the next phase, which Christine will talk about.
So again, this is jumping back to the first mood board, and this is kind of our exploration stage where you see these multiple cans, but all of these cans started with elements from the mood boards. So now we're figuring out hierarchy, messaging. So it's more of like the bigger picture, the color blocks. It's also like if you saw this can on a shelf, like standing 5 feet back, you know, what's going to make the most impact.
Yeah.
And this is really more internal. The clients normally don't see this. We're trying to figure out what the right space is, what if there's opportunities, if there's something that's distinctive. And we're looking at, when you do a puzzle, you do the big pieces first and the small pieces last. So in design, the same thing. We're focusing on big moves, and we're not focused on little granular stuff yet.
All right.
Details will come later.
This question comes up no matter what the work is, whether it's photography, design, anything. But it's basically, I know it varies so differently between the company and who you're working with. But how do you go about quoting projects and the work that you're doing? Like, is it based on just your flat hourly fee? Is it based on a project? Is it based on how much money that you think the client has?
Yeah.
Is it based on...
That's a great question. I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's way more successful than me, and he's always badgering me on like, you need to charge more, you're not doing it right. And I'm always trying to perfect that bidding
because
game.
you don't want to price yourself out of the market,
Right.
and you don't want to be the cheapest, lowest price person because then you're giving it away. Yeah,
it's a game. We don't have a rate sheet, so we don't have like, a logo costs X amount, $500, and a brochure costs $1,000. We don't have a rate sheet. We know that what we're doing is we're producing a product and we're providing value and a service to our clients, and I try to figure out what is that value for them.
Okay.
And so I think that sort of typically gauges like where we can skew it. In trying to decide which clients we work with, 10 years ago, any project that came in, I was taking it. I don't care what it was for, what category. I need to put food on the table. I have to pay for rent. So it's like, it's a project, and I don't care what it is. I'm designing it.
Right.
And you only have a budget, $300. Okay, it's good enough.
Yeah, good
I'm
enough.
gonna do
We'll
it.
do it. Yeah.
Fortunately, we've evolved quite a bit and we have the stature where we can get bigger and better clients. What is a bigger and better client? There's different things. It's really working with good people, working on projects that we're excited about, and if we can make money doing it, great.
Great. Yeah.
But it's not always about the money for us.
Yeah.
So as long as we don't necessarily lose money, then I can be interested.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And Joe, I like number 4 as well. They're voting on the can.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so back to these, it's like we're just throwing stuff against the wall, trying to get big picture based on those brandscapes that we just shared, and we're pulling aspects from those onto those. So again, we're just doing high level, quick research. How long do you think this took you, Christine?
Probably like 30 to 45 minutes for all those cans.
Wow.
So it's more like, don't try to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
making it
Right.
perfect.
But just you were able to bang those out. in
Yeah.
Yeah, so
30,
it's just,
45
I mean,
minutes.
like, I had all my elements.
Oh,
I was just
okay.
like,
All
So
right,
if
so
you do
you're-
the
so I'm,
math,
like,
right?
moving them.
So you're just like
around.
puzzle pieces you're putting
Yeah.
together.
Right,
Okay,
right.
got it.
And sometimes, like, within there, you know, I'm exploring something, then another idea will pop up.
Okay.
That might not be on
And
the
now
board.
that makes
yeah.
more sense what you were saying earlier about putting together all those.
Yeah. When you're putting those mood
Elements,
boards
right.
together, you want to make sure you're curating the right artifacts because you're going to be using
That's the
those.
word I was looking for,
Right.
artifacts.
Colors
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
textures and potential logo styles. You sort of put them in buckets, and then we start slapping these onto the brandscape. And then we don't, you know, we sort of tweak the brandscapes, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't feel right, we discard it and we go on. So we do a lot of these because it has to feel right. It has to have a gut feeling. So the ones we're showing you, they felt right. They sort of fit within the brand brief, and then we go into this. So the brandscape was maybe 15, 20 minutes. These cans here was maybe another 30 minutes. So that's less than an hour to get to this.
Now, is this just, let's say this was the project,
Yep.
and these were some of the ideas you came up with. Is this then for you to decide which one these are it's going to be, or the client?
Normally at this level, we keep it internal.
Okay.
Yeah, we challenge each other. So the designers are working, and they all have different sort of interpretations potentially of the brand brief and the research, which is great because I like that diversity. And a lot of that's predicated on experience or gender or life experiences will influence a lot of their design. So they output something. Then we have a group critique. We put everything up either up on the wall or we have a big monitor, and we just share, and we're critical of each other. And it's important to challenge each other, say that maybe not so good, but tell them why, or why you like something. And from that, then we can start to continue this process. And we have this belief that anything we do, the first round we do, we throw away. We never accept the first. I had a teacher who said, you design in pen, not pencil, because he didn't want us to erase anything. And so with our designs, we get it to a first level, and I call it sort of leveling. We get to the next one. I think we start to find magic, challenge each other on about the third level. So this here is first level, and we're just trying to look for opportunities. Here's another sort of one of the mood boards we shared earlier, and then this is how we started applying. Again, just high level, what might it look like 5 feet away, and a lot of those, that sort of 5 foot rule, and I say that because of like consumers see things on the shelf from 5 feet away, is you're looking for that impact, something that is either indelible or unique. And so here's a lot of, I think, unique things like the top of the apple on some of these here in the middle.
Yeah, and that was inspired by that logo shape that you see.
And we didn't design that logo. I think we found that, and we might have
found that
doctored it up a
later.
little bit.
Yeah, and then we started creating, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this shape. And then once I got there, I was like, oh, that kind of looks like it has a visual opportunity to become the top of an apple. And that
So you
kind
create
of
your own
made the
opportunities,
Cool.
right, through this process. We don't know what that end result's going to look like. We trust the process that's going to get us there.
Very cool.
So here's another mood board, which was, there's very specific styling with the artifacts that we picked. And, again, flushing it out and see how it looks on a can. Here's some other cans. So from this, we start to narrow the focus, and we start creating more granular details. Here's some other things where we start crafting logos. So initially we were inspired by other designers who craft logos that I think will look right for this brand, and then we craft our own.
Okay. So I don't want it to go too far up before I forget. Marian's asking, as a freelancer, how do you know how to value your work?
I think there's a saying, it's like, you're worth what someone's willing to pay you. So you got to test the market.
Right.
So are you $100 logo designer, or are you the $10,000 logo designer? It really is a matter of what sort of work you put out there, and who you're talking to. Do they value it and see something in your mark? Are they willing to spend that kind of money?
And I think it also gets down to, like you were saying, when bills need to be paid, then you become that $50 logo designer because you need the work. But if that's not the case, then it really does become, is it worth your time? In other words, is it worth doing for you, or will you get something out of the project? Potentially others will see it and you'll get more work, or will it be just you're having fun doing it? You'll love doing that project, and therefore you might bring the price down a little bit. But how you value yourself is really up to you and where you are in whatever craft it is. Like if you're a freelancer and this is the only way you're paying your bills, chances are starting out you're going to accept more projects that maybe later on you wouldn't have priced so low, or you wouldn't have priced at the price you did. But the one thing I will say that's always harder to do, it's always harder to raise your prices than it is to lower them. So, you might say, hey...
I don't think I've ever raised my prices. Right, that's a good one.
Say,
I like
that. The logo is normally $10,000, but today I'm going to give it to you for $500, because then you can say, hey, I already told you what the price normally is. So you have to remember that.
Yeah. No, a good friend of mine, he taught me the rules. Like, you can go and say, I typically charge $10,000 for this logo, but I'm really interested in this project. I have the bandwidth that can accommodate it, and I see you as a potential client that I want to work with in the future. So I'm willing to reduce my rate to $5,000. Let's say you're more than happy to do it for $2,500.
I know.
But in their eyes, they just got a $10,000 logo for $5,000. Right. And it's like, now they're like, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So as opposed to going $2,500 and say, I'm going to go up to $5,000, now it's like, doesn't sound good at all.
Exactly. That's what I said. It's always easier to lower, give sales discounts than it is to raise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pricing is tough. It's a tough game.
Right.
So I don't have like a great answer.
And of course, the question is, are you hiring?
We're always looking for good and talented exciting, dynamic people. Yeah. Who asked? Send me an email.
Basically. Or Mariah. No, Mariah asked that one.
Yeah. Email us and we'll chat. So based on the sort of brandscapes and sort of the can exploration, then this is the actual first round presentation that we shared with the client. So the client came to our office, and this is the first round. And so this is what our sort of concepts look like. So they hired us to do a logo and the packaging, but we fleshed out a full brand system. So Christine, I'm gonna have you draw it.
Yeah, so for this presentation, I'll kind of breeze through the first couple pages just to give you a brief of how it's set up. We usually do a logo, first page, a hero shot, maybe front and back, depending.
Yeah, normally
on what
like the main touch point for the brand.
And then we like to start adding brand voice. I think this is opportunity for perhaps maybe some marketing.
Okay.
Then you kind of see more artifacts that are applied to different touch points.
Photo styling.
Touch points that are going to be inside the cidery, things like coasters, and then more visuals. So I think these will vary, but we really want to get brand artifacts across, brand voice, styling, curation.
Yeah.
So this was the first one. So again.
And we knew that they were doing a tasting room, a retail space where people can try their ciders, but as well as eat. So they didn't have it developed yet. So we found this image probably on Pinterest and we skinned it, with their brand to sort of give you a fuzzy notion if it starts to feel right. That's all. It doesn't have to be.
Now, was that something they asked you to do, or you kind of just put that in as part of what you do?
I think most clients would expect that and that.
Okay.
We're creating a well-rounded brand with strong brand essence and strong brand voice. There's an aesthetic side to it, which is important, but it's like, does it feel right? That's what I always like to ask questions. What is your gut feeling? Does it feel right to you? Because that oftentimes is the best solution.
Perfect.
So this is one concept, and we do a lot of consumer packaged goods. We need to show.
We do shelf sets. So for this one, they would be placed in the natural market.
All right. So while we're here, because someone's asking a question, and I would have it about this image in particular.
Yeah.
Where can I get those mock-up templates? Did you create them?
No, we actually. There are a lot of resources out there. We use something called Yellow Images, and what's great about it is they have different product renders, and they come in like either TIFF or PSD, and they have your highlights and shadows and smart objects.
It sounds a lot like what
Project
Felix,
Felix, right?
Project
Yeah.
Felix, yeah.
So, I was going to say, I wanted you to answer first because that's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
actual work.
But
But
now hearing about Project
yeah,
Felix,
a couple
I'm,
things you
super
can
excited.
do is, number one, there are lots of those kinds of things in the Adobe Marketplace, which is free. Just go to your Creative Cloud. I guess I can show you. Hang on.
Show us.
Hold on. Let me get over here.
I'm interested.
Not yet. Hold on.
Yeah, so there's a lot
All
of
right.
resources
Now
out
ready.
there.
All right, so first, if you go to your Adobe Creative Cloud menu, the one that you know has always got that red thing there showing you there's something new. If you go to Assets, just the market alone is if you're trying to find mock-ups or things to do. So if I were to search for, I've never searched for this, so let's see what happens. If I search for can, then I will get mock-ups of, and I probably should have been more specific, but I will get, there's a good one there. Yeah, I'll get that aluminum can, and I could download that to my Creative Cloud library and use it. These are free to use. Now, the other option, of course, is to go to Adobe Stock. And if I do be a little bit more specific, let's do soda can. That should bring up some generic cans because they shouldn't be branded. And there they are. So tons of opportunity if you need assets like this to be able to put your own branding around. And of course, Project Felix will have them in 3D. So where they showed you the front of it and then the back of it, that would be literally you wrapping the label around the whole thing and just showing both sides of it. So you have a couple ways to do that.
Yeah, so finding yellow images. This Project Felix sounds really cool. Sometimes we'll find images on Pinterest and this glass on the bar is just probably some found image, or stock photo sites you can pull.
Yep.
We use.
I like that one because it's the shell.
This one we actually
That's
went
kinda
in.
cool.
We went into a store and shot the
it
photograph,
and
right?
then just replaced everything. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's one concept, and then this is the third concept? So again, we start out with the logo, and because it was cider and it was about discovery, we have like a lantern here with a sort of an apple in lieu of the sort of flame. So we like to try to have these little sort of Easter eggs or nuggets involved in it. This is based, I think you can remember the brandscape that we had with the large apple. That was something from 5 feet away is very distinctive, and we really like that. And we started adding sort of textures. And so inside the apple, you see this sort of topographic map inside there. And that was born from the brandscape because we pulled these artifacts and we saw these really cool opportunities, and then we keep referencing them and we keep adding it. So through the process, we're crafting things that we probably couldn't conceived out of the gate. Again, sort of establishing brand voice. Here was this cool little camper. There's a lot of sort of marketing sort of tools, and so we skinned that as well to sort of get a sense of like other opportunities, illustration styles, font treatments, colors. This is an infographic that we had that we found like a dissection of an apple, and then we converted it into an infographic. So we're just constantly looking for opportunities and adding sort of as many sort of facets to the brand voice as possible. So based on that, we probably presented, I think we shared 2 or 3 there.
I think there's like 6 or 8.
We presented the client about 6 of those concepts. So they're fully baked. The client picked one, and we continue to hone it in. So here's what something looks like a little more refined. Full screen mode. So they picked this concept. So we have the front here, and we fleshed out the back. We showed sides. You can start to see more granular details. Again, from the brand sort of scapes, they were just high level. Then the initial concepts, again, high level, big moves. Then you can start to see little details, little nuggets of information. I think then this is where the magic really starts to happen, is in the details. This is what we call a lay flat. So you can kind of see what the art looks like, production mode. Looking at color opportunities, because having line extensions for the brand.
I think that's also, while you're there, before you start a project, I think it's also important to know, again, as an example, if you're doing a beverage, someone who's doing beverage, keeping in mind, how big that SKU will grow, because then you need to keep in mind of like the systems of, how to
product,
differentiate it.
yeah, the
from,
product
like, one
architecture is so
differentiate
important,
one-
like how you can scale and grow the brand, and being sort of mindful and looking at the possibilities, so you don't sort of paint yourself into any sort of corners.
Cool.
So then again, we started taking that brand and fleshing them out across other touch points, bottles. Here's more of a family look. And then 6-pack box. Again, we're not just doing a logo slap of the can. We're trying to create multiple dimensions to the brand. So we start to see imagery to it as well, and sort of trying to sort of portray potential
because again,
lifestyle.
That's what you're doing for the client is you're taking it to that next level. Whereas the client is just thinking about the can, but you're already into the packaging and marketing on the store shelves, and that's awesome.
And we're this agency in Pasadena, and we're relatively small. But I always think, like, what is that other agency doing out there?
That bigger agency,
right?
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of like, okay, guys, we just need to put our big boy pants on and let's do something outside of our reach. And so we're constantly trying to improve what we're doing. And our next presentation is going to be probably even more thorough and robust. So
Yeah, so this is, so you saw that one box, and it's now, how do you kind of flesh that out to the other flavors? On the front, we have like different images of people. Since Bivouac is based off, embracing your adventure, maybe we put people.
Adventures, yeah. Like a surfer or a rock climber, or so it's extending that brand voice and that brand story.
Cool.
There's a life out of the box. And because there's a tap room, they engaged an architect firm in San Diego called Texture. And they're really amazing at their craft. They do a lot of woodwork. And so they took a lot of the brand elements we have, and they started ideating some ideas from the interior design aspect. And then we started integrating some environmental graphics to what they're working. So we're working in concert with other agencies as well. In this case, it's an architect studio. Looking at sort of other opportunities and sort of extending the brand in that space. And so like a neon sign, brand voice, having sort of a dialogue with the consumer, in this case, wander often, to what might happen in other areas of the rest. So this is the bathroom, and we have all these different explorers on the wall as a concept. Here's an artifact we created, which, bivouacking is normally like rock climbers. So there's like, you have the rope, but because it's cider, we initially just had a rope. And then we're like, wait, that looks like an apple where the knot is in the middle. So, we extended that. And this is where I talk about design leveling. That first idea was the rope. We're like, oh, that's cool. But then we took it to the next level. So like 2 to 2.5. So this is where the magic happens, is not on the first level.
Yeah.
Get to that second or third level.
Right.
Somewhere in between is magic.
We're going to do a pause real quick. We're going to talk about the contest. So for those of you who are watching this on adobelive.com, if you're not, you can pop over there right now in your browser. There's a contest tab, and in that contest tab is the Project Felix contest. Cash prizes in form of Visa gift cards, as well as Creative Cloud subscriptions, based on your entries, based on, of course, the ones that are picked. What I thought I'd do is give you a quick run through, just very brief, on kind of some of the things you can do with Project Felix. And if we switch to me, I'll go ahead and show it to you. Now, for those of you who are new to Project Felix, it is something you can download right now. It is in your Creative Cloud apps. It is public beta. So Project Felix, you can go ahead and install it as a public beta. Beta 3 just came out. Now, I can show this finished one later, but let's go ahead and create a new project. And what that will give you is just simply this blank canvas. Now, at this point, one of the things that's new is that they have now defined kits so that you can just quickly jump to a specific kit for the kinds of objects or artifacts, I like that word, that you might be looking for. Or you could just say, hey, you know what? No, I don't want anything from there. I want some 3D models, and these 3D models are all included. The one I use a lot is the bag, because I like to design using fashion and putting things on that bag. But the can inspired me, and then I looked in here and I said, well, wait, there's no can. That sucks. Wait a minute, I can't do a can if there's no can. Then I thought about it. I was like, wait a minute. just because it's not built in doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I popped over to my browser and I searched. You remember I searched for Adobe Stock just a few minutes ago, and I was looking for images of soda cans, and that's what came up. You saw that a second ago. Well, I said I didn't change a thing. All I did was go. I didn't change the search. All I did was go in and say, well, don't just show me images, show me 3D. Because you can search for Adobe Stock 3D images that will work in Felix. And voila, there's my can. So I licensed it already. This one was free, didn't have to pay for it, and downloaded it to one of my Creative Cloud libraries. So now when I pop back over to Felix, I've got this blank canvas, and I've also got now access to my Adobe libraries, including that new can that I just brought in.
That's cool.
All right, so these are other images that are in my library, so let's bring this one in. We'll use this as a background image. This one's kind of large, so I'm going to go ahead and say resize it. Resize the image. We're going to say crop to fit, and we're going to resize. There we go. All right, so now they brought that in. You also see this kind of ground plane. It's actually stopping right up to the thigh. Well, actually, that's not where the ground is. So I need to go ahead and bring that down and just simply lower the ground plane to where the ground actually is. So that way, Felix, because Felix is looking at this as a 2D thing. It doesn't know what this is. So I'm now telling it where the ground is. And I can also tilt that if the ground wasn't level. Now I can bring in my 3D object. I can bring in that can that we just grabbed from Adobe Stock. And of course, I can grab my selection tool there, and I can bring that up. If I bring it down below the ground, look what happens. It starts going underground. So it will actually start to disappear if I put it below the ground. All right, so let's do a couple things. Number one, we can make that just, actually I don't want to do it that way. Let's do it this way. We'll make that a little smaller because the can probably wouldn't be that big. We can also, of course, now rotate it, tilt it up a little bit, and you can also see it's even casting a shadow because I don't have the ground plane all the way down. Let's go in, and we can tilt, rotate, swivel, get our can looking any way we want. And of course, it's just a solid can right now, same color, so no matter how we turn it, it's going to look the same. But once I get it there, then I can switch over to my assets, or back to my assets. We were looking at the models. There was no can, so I went and got one from Adobe Stock. But if I go to materials, I can actually start to design or put the material on this can that I want. So let's say I'm kind of thinking more red plastic. I can just go ahead and click red plastic, and now that's on there. So now at this point, if I had a label ready, that would have been cool, but I don't. So let's see if I can do it this way. That's the drink ring. That's the can body. That's the plastic material. And let's go to the surface. And let's see if I can replace that with an image. So I can drag and drop an image in there, or I can just go get one. And if I go to my CC demo files, Project Felix, I'm just gonna bring in this fashion label because that's what I typically do. But now I've just wrapped that fashion label all the way around the can. So had that been a properly designed label, front, back, side, all of it, then it would just wrap around it perfectly. And so now if I go back, I can, there we go, rotate that around. I always have a problem not tilting it. I don't want to drink my can yet.
It's even like casting shadows and everything
on
that
that's all the
surface
lighting
as well.
And all that. Now the other thing, you know, one of Felix's big claim to fames. There we go. Let's tilt it that way and then back. There, perfect. It's getting an artificial light, obviously. So one of the things that we can do is we can select the background, and we can say create a light from the image. So then it has all the same properties of the environment onto the can. So if I say create a light from the image, is the background image indoors or outdoors? It's outdoors. That's new, by the way. I just recognized that from, it's now giving it light based on where it is. So in theory, if I were to move it, yes. Edit your new light, blah, 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 got it, okay. theory, if I were to move this around now, there we go. See how it's picking up the light from that side on this onto the can? So I should be able to now, of course, manipulate the lights and move them around, change their intensity, make that brighter, rotate the light around, and as you can see, it's now affecting the properties, and it's getting the reflections even from the trees and things around it.
That's crazy.
So it's just an insane environment to work on from insane in a good way, from a designer standpoint. When they're creating these mock-ups, now they could have that stock photo or real photo and actually put their new product in that same environment and have the lights come from it as if it were there when they took the photo.
I see a lot of my staff on the chat. You guys need to experiment with this. Do it now.
Yeah. Download it now.
When we get back to the office, we want to see what you produce.
Enter the contest. Yeah. It would be cool if you won by the time you got back to the office. That'd be better. Brownie points.
Cool.
All right. So check out Project Felix.
So we have about 30 minutes left, so we want to sort of set up the next project. So we laid out sort of really got in deep and shared a lot of our process, what we do at Farm Design, to sort of generate the products that you see on Behance or our website. So we want to sort of create a hypothetical project, and we're going to take it from this brief, which you would typically get from a client, and we're going to fully bake it to the very end to sort of, you can take these lessons and build your own portfolio on Behance or your website, very similar to what we do at Farm Design.
Cool.
So I'm going to have Christine sort of set it up.
So what I'm going to show you guys is a brief. I'll also show some imagery, and then from the brief you'll kind of see how one of our designers interpreted that and started collecting assets for her mood boards.
So it normally starts with a brief. So sometimes a client will provide this to us, or we'll ask questions to get this information. It's super granular on your screen, but they kind of look like this. I don't expect you guys to sort of read all of this, but we can go over some of the high-level stuff on it.
Yeah, so the way we structure it is similar to how we structure the research with the who are you, who should know. This isn't as detailed, due to time, but this should do. So we are going to be designing a shrub, sparkling shrub or shrub soda, and I'll get into detail of what that is. So this project is going to be called Wilder Shrub Company, and I'll just kind of see. So who Wilder Shrub Company is established by these two cocktail enthusiasts from the Midwest. They were really passionate about mixology, and they were inspired by crafting their first small batches of shrub soda at home. And after years of creating, the perfect formulation of, simple syrups for their craft cocktails, the idea was born when clients kind of started wanting something that was non-alcoholic and refreshing. And from then they started adding sparkling water, which is what makes a shrub soda. And I know a lot of you are curious about, what is a shrub soda? It sounds like a bush or a plant.
Right.
But I'll go into that.
There's a lot of history behind it, which is interesting. It's really actually becoming this emerging trend in the beverage industry. So we thought it was pretty interesting. So, but it has a lot of history, which we're gonna sort of get inspired by when we start crafting some looks for this.
Yeah. So just to give you a background of what a shrub is a sweet and tangy syrup made by combining 3 components, which is fruit, sugar, and vinegar. What makes a shrub soda, or a sparkling shrub, is the concentrate of muddled fruit and then sparkling water. And it's got a lot of history, as Aaron said. This is a timeline that we kind of created of where it kind of originated from. So it goes all the way back to the 15th century, and it was actually used for medicinal purposes. You have, I think during like 17th century, it was an alternative to citrus juices, because a lot of people back then wanted to preserve, their berries or other fruit, so they used the vinegar to do that. Then it gained popularity, in today's time, where it became something that was used for bartenders and mixologists. And now it's actually an emerging trend in the ready-to-drink market. So it's non-alcoholic, but I think now it's like a health trend is becoming something new. So it's low sugar, low calorie, and it's healthy for you. It's a better option than sodas.
Yeah. So this is a lot of the research, like we showed that brief up front. And I think a lot of creatives, and this is what I used to do when I first started Farm, is I'd ask some basic questions, I'd download it from the client, we'd have like a really simple brief, and I'd jump right into designing it. I wasn't really informed a lot about the details and all the other possibilities. So this is sort of start scratching the surface on sort of doing that research and understanding, the space. And there's a lot of history here, so which we found there's some opportunities in what we might start to pursue when we start designing what this label might look like.
So again, going back to the market and kind of where it started as traditional shrub cocktail mixers. So the ones you see now on the screen are concentrates, and these are what the bartenders are using in mixology. We kind of just wanted a grasp of what are the aesthetics that are out there right now.
Mm-hmm. And you look at that, if you go back, it's like these are actual products on the market space. So understanding the landscape, there's a certain look and style that's sort of like this medicinal.
It looks like a medicine bottle more than it does something you would drink.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's an opportunity there. If everyone is doing that, there might be an opportunity to create tension or disrupt that space by doing something different.
Yes, I agree.
So understanding what is out there so you can see opportunities that...
Now, do you ever ask yourself, is it that way for a reason?
Right, absolutely. You need to honor that, and you need to understand that. And then you look for opportunities. So there may be strengths in pursuing the same thing, but I think you can't sort of turn your back to it. So this, we need to do more research on understanding how much of this we sort of leverage and how much gives us license to sort of branch out and explore. But I think a lot of it is understanding who that consumer is too. We're looking at sort of potential contemporary market, looking for new things. What are their sort of aesthetics? What is sort of that style that they're looking for? And so maybe those aren't hitting it. So that's why I talk about looking at it from a consumer-centric point of view. I think a lot of those brands were looking at it from the brand side and maybe weren't considering the consumer as much. So something to think about.
Cool.
So jumping back to this, we also wanted to see, what are the other refreshing, low-calorie, healthier options in the market. So these are natural sparkling carbonated beverages. And this is kind of what we do. We kind of try to dissect the information that's on there, trying to see how the brand positions themselves, what are their, the hierarchy in their labeling, and what are the certain call-outs. Because
message points are important. See what they're doing, how they're trying to communicate and create dialogue with consumers, if they're in fact doing that, and see if there's something there or if there's other opportunities that they haven't explored.
Yeah. So a lot of these are, what's really important now, especially if you're in the natural market, is, calorie count or sugar count, the zero those buzzwords that kind of tell them. So we kind of do this.
0 calorie, artificial sweetener, bad for you.
Pretty much.
There's always
sugar, bad for you.
And in this space, there's all these trends. It's constantly changing. It's that new buzzword. It's like, what is it? It's like no GMO. Is it no carrageenan? And it's like, whoa, what is, like, I don't know what this stuff is. It's constantly changing because consumers' habits and what they're looking for is also evolving as well.
It is.
So for this one, we wanted to do functional drinking vinegars. So by functional, we mean like they have like a health benefit to it. So, this shrub soda or sparkling shrub that we're doing, is there a health benefit that we need to communicate to our consumers? And then again, we dissect.
Again, so we're not just jumping into the, crafting beautiful pictures. It's like we really need to get invested and get under the hood on what these other competitors are doing, what the space is like. We need to be really informed.
And that's important to think about as well. It's something I'm picking up from you guys. Is that it's not, like you said, it's not just about coming up with the pretty picture that the client likes.
Yeah.
It has to have meaning behind it as well.
Yeah.
So a lot.
Yeah. It needs to be informative. It needs to connect with the consumer. It needs to have soul. And there's all these things. There's an emotional connection that consumers have with brands. And like Christine said it earlier, it's like you create a logo or something. A lot of people think that's all what brand is. But you're initially attracted to looks. but you fall in love with personality. So this is really, we're going deeper and we're trying to create the personality because we want long-lasting relationships with our customers. And this is how you do it. Cool. A pretty picture sort of just pulls you in, but there's nothing behind that. Yeah. It's like, forget it. You're off.
You're moving on to the next pretty picture.
Yeah.
So for the next one, you'll see, the emerging shrub sodas. So this is a relatively new thing in the market today. So we wanted to see, whether you're a small mom and pop or someone that's already on the shelves, like what is your aesthetic and what are you communicating? So, it's not just communicating visually, it's also communicating through words. And then we pulled some images of, what our target market would be like. So we were thinking between ages of 23 and 37. These are people that are searching for healthier food and drink alternatives, educated, middle to upper middle class, because you also want to know, what is their disposable income, because that will define the price point of your product. So we want to make sure that that's right. Sometimes the client will say, a certain price point, but we're like, I don't think that fits in the age range between.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really important to know that information. So they're health conscious, people who value craftsmanship, and they're
all right. You're getting requests because this is so good. People want to know if you have a sample brief or something that you can give away for them to download.
Can they just take a screenshot of what just popped up on the screen? Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, because obviously all yours are real, so that, you don't want to give those away. Yeah. But I asked. They don't have one.
But
it was on the screen. It's pretty.
If you watch it, you get your your 4 questions that you kind of want to cover.
They want it handed to them in a PDF.
This wasn't handed to us, and we're constantly changing it. So the next one is going to be different. So there isn't a boilerplate with us. It was like we're constantly crafting new things.
So creative direction. You have with Shrub having so much history. And as an emerging trend today, we'd like to explore directions that pay homage to the shrub heritage, and at the same time still being able to capture and market to our target audience.
Which is like millennials who are So it has to have some sort of sensibilities and styling that's going to appeal to that audience. Yeah. And they typically want to share something, Instagram, something that's photographable.
Right.
Instagrammable.
Instagrammable, that's the word. Yeah. So you want something that is going to speak to them. Whereas something like more my demographic, more sort of, in their 40s, my sensibilities are going to be different. And so understanding that. And if I'm designing this and I'm in my late 40s, I'm going to sort of become that millennial. I'm going to try to become that 25-year-old consumer, and I'm going to try to walk in their shoes as I'm designing this, trying to sort of try to understand what they're looking for, not from my perspective as a 47-year-old, but as the perspective of a 25-year-old. So you're always in the same thing. If we're doing something where the brand brief is targeted, say, a 50-year-old woman, Christine is going to have to try to sort of walk in those shoes. And so, a lot of these sort of briefs make things relatable, and it helps sort of get us to that space.
Yeah, so this is a little kind of scale. So we kind of want to do a combination, and I don't know if we do like 2 mood boards where, it's primarily classic with a modern twist, or is it more modern with just a little bit of, that heritage feel.
So that's the foundation. And so we're going to go into the next steps.
Okay.
So we got a foundation. We have sort of a roadmap to move forward. So we're going to design a beverage package for everyone. It's in a space called it's a shrub drink, shrub soda, and then the brand is we're calling it Wilder, and that was paying homage to Laura Ingalls Wilder, the author, because back in on homesteads.
Yeah, 18th, 19th century. This is kind of where it emerged during hot sweltering summers. Everyone was trying to look for a beverage that was refreshing to them and that would preserve their fruit.
Got it. Okay. All right, we've got about 12 minutes left.
Okay.
11 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, so if you can jump to my screen, if possible. Sure. So so prior to coming in, we started, based on that brief, we started downloading artifacts, visuals, and we put them in buckets. So I think a lot of people, this is where they kind of stop and before they go into creative, is they do this sort of kind of mood boards. And so we thought about all the sort of unique sort of facets that we needed to sort of uncover that we can utilize in the creative discovery stage. So here we're talking about flavors. What are some flavors that we'd have for the beverage? And so there could be fig, it could be kumquat. And so we started downloading these images, and these go into a folder. And so then we got other flavors. So we start compiling these assets. Illustration styles, vectors, are they monoline? Is it illustrative? Is it photorealistic? We're looking at all these possibilities, and the designers are grabbing these things off the internet and they're dropping them into a folder on their desktop, and we just laid it out here like this. Typically, we may not format it as nicely as this because it's that bucket we're going to start to pull from into the brandscape. We're talking about the history and the heritage of it, so that we found these really cool artifacts of, these homesteads and this like little homestead deed here. So there's some things that we can potentially use as we start designing. We're really setting that foundation and getting all those puzzle pieces ready to go. So when we're going to tackle that puzzle, so that preparation is super important before we get into that creative. More information on, we just talked about that Laura Ingalls Wilder. And then this creative started exploring, some really light sort of possible type treatments. Again, sort of prohibition sort of labels that maybe inspire us. And some visuals. We'll start looking at other websites. Anything that can potentially inspire us, we start pulling in here. So from this, we go into, I want to show Moodboard. Is it?
That should be a Moodboard.
Here?
Mm-hmm. I think if you open, hopefully you have the font.
Okay, so this is, we actually took artifacts from that initial sort of research and downloads, and we did a quick mood board, and we're going to show you how to do this. So Christine's going to start that, but this is what a typical mood board, and this is, again, so this Smith and Company, we didn't design that. Mm-hmm. That was a logo that was out there, and whoever designed it, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. But there's something about that feels right for this project brief, and we just wanted to see if it's the juxtaposition.
So
and the
that's
colors.
actually someone else's.
Someone designed it. We have no intentions on showing this to the client.
Okay.
We're just trying to get a sense of what is that logo style like.
Okay.
Is it symmetrical?
Is it soft?
Is it hand done? Is it, there's all these different styles, and sometimes we'll pull a bunch of logos and we'll put it on the mood board and say that looks good.
Got it.
Then we'll try another one. We compare and contrast. We're like, that actually looks better. Why does that logo work better than the previous one? And then we're going to craft something that takes on those nuances, and that's part of the discovery. So this is one that we felt like, it feels pretty good. So we're going to craft something that might say shrub or that might say wilder, and we're going to craft something, but inspired by this. So this is a mood board that then we're going to start applying to a can. So with the remaining, what do we have, about 10 minutes?
You have about 7.
Okay. Christine is going to, you were going to maybe lay out some foundation. Do you want to share how we might take this onto a bottle, or do you want to start a mood board?
I mean, we can do mood, and then maybe do the foundational stuff tomorrow, because that's when we're going to start exploring visual and design.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I can start a mood board.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Let me open.
So we normally do 15-minute mood boards, 20-minute mood boards. So Christine is challenged. She's going to do one of these boards in 7 minutes. But this is really important to sort of get an idea, a high-level idea. And the key is not spending half a day or a full day on trying to generate ideas. And you'll start to see, we're trying to find opportunities that we can leverage when we start going into the can design or the bottle design.
Yes.
So we'll probably use this one that I just showed you tomorrow as one of the as an impetus for one of the design concepts, and we like to do a lot of these mood boards, and so we'll probably have 3 or 4 mood boards ready to go tomorrow, so we can jump right into sort of the next stage, which is a little more thorough and ideate some ideas.
Okay, so it looks like the other one feels a little like more modern, I would say, with hints of the heritage. So I don't know if this one is more heritage with just a little bit more modern. So these are my folders. I've got flavors. I've kind of divided them by category. And this helps me. I know everyone has their own.
Can you show like a contact sheet of what like might be in there?
Yeah, so these are like, modern elements.
And again, we didn't design these. We're getting inspired by these, and it's going to help sort of evolve the next idea, and then we're going to craft something that we can claim as our own.
Got it.
So I don't know if...
You going to start from scratch, or you're going to...
Yeah, I'm going to start a new board.
So you're an illustrator, and you're going to create these using artboards.
Yes, artboards. So you can kind of just drag and drop.
So we're going to compile colors and fonts and imagery or artifacts to start to create like a visual space for us to get inspired by. And we're looking at, when we're designing it, we do a lot of sort of overlapping, sort of kind of mosaic. We do a lot of multiplies to sort of like find some interesting overlaps and opportunities in these artifacts. And I think that's where the secrets are. It's in the little nooks and crannies of these things.
And how many designers would you have working on a project like this?
Typically, on the outset, I like to have a lot of people sort of generating ideas. I think that's where the magic starts, is that foundation. So one person might create the research deck, and then we share it with everyone. After everyone downloads it, gets a good understanding of it, then they start compiling all these artifacts, and then they start jumping into these mood boards. Probably 4 designers would typically be doing this, and each designer, if you're spending 15 to 20 minutes doing it, in half a day they could have half a dozen mood boards, and then times 4, you're looking at 25 mood boards. And then we look at it, and then we put them up on the board, and we challenge each other, like, this doesn't feel right, and then we say why. And normally we reference back to the research deck, like, remember, it's a millennial that we're trying to communicate to. This looks too mature. And then we'll say why. So that mood board we might strike off. And then we'll find mood boards that we feel are working, and we'll try to articulate why we think it works. One thing that I mention a lot is it's really important to verbalize what you see. Because oftentimes, earlier in my career, I could see a design and I liked it, but I didn't know why. Or I saw a design and I didn't like it, but I didn't know why. But I considered myself a designer. But if you can take a step back and you can articulate and dissect what it is about designs that you like and don't like, then you're going to be much better at your craft. So when we do group critiques, it's really important that everyone is involved and everyone is articulating what they see, because it activates a different side of your brain that is taking all sort of the creativity side out and being more analytical about your approach.
So a lot of what I'm seeing here would, we talked about this. I think you and Paul worked on this a little bit yesterday. This is where you guys could really take advantage of CC libraries.
Yeah.
Yep.
Learned a lot yesterday.
Yeah, we were playing with that, and tomorrow we're going to utilize the library so we can share sort of a lot of these artifacts. Get all those assets from the Finder. So when Christine's working on a can design, but she needs help with the logo, I can design the logo on my system, and it would update on her package design when it's uploaded to the library. So I think a lot of those things are fantastic tools that we'll demonstrate tomorrow. You can see that Christine is just doing quick moves. She's not worried about getting perfection. We're just sort of building the artifacts, typically colors, textures, fonts, and then it starts to take shape.
And we're getting about the 30-second hook.
Oh wow!
Sorry, I wasn't even finished, but maybe tomorrow you'll see a fleshed out mood board that we can just jump right into.
All right, so we're coming to the end of just this first segment with these guys. We're going to do 2 more, one tomorrow and one Thursday. Same time, same bat time, same bat channel.
Awesome!
You'll get that reference.
Yeah. I do.
And any parting words for this first segment from you?
I just hope you guys are getting like nuggets of information, and I hope you're learning.
Well, everything I read in the chat was great information. You know, gonna want, you know, love it. So
Awesome.
So on, so.
We're here for you guys. So any questions you have, we want to be able to answer. Because I know when I was, you know, right out of school or a young designer, it's like I didn't know much and I just wanted to learn.
Right.
So anything you guys have questions on, we just want to share knowledge. That's all what we're here for.
Awesome. So don't leave. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. There's more to watch. But we're going to take a quick break in just a few seconds here and switch presenters. Paul will be up hosting the next presenters. And more to learn, more to see all day, today, tomorrow, and Thursday.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Yeah. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching.